The world only saw the power in her walk, never the pain behind it. Every morning at exactly 5:52 a.m., Selena Ward, the youngest CEO in her company's history, stood before the glass wall of her penthouse office, watching the city wake up. Her tailored suit always hid the steel prosthetic attached below her right knee, but she could never hide the tremor in her breathing before she took her first step. And on this particular morning, her prosthetic joint jammed again, locking stiff mid-stride. She stumbled, catching the edge of her desk, her laptop crashing to the floor with a thunderous crack that echoed through the room. She hated this, the vulnerability, the isolation, the reminder that everything she built came at a price she never volunteered to pay. And the world, despite its applause, never understood how lonely strength could feel. If you believe kindness still changes lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. Your support helps these stories reach someone who truly needs hope today. Selena had spent years turning her struggles into armor. A childhood accident had taken her leg when she was 11. A mother who blamed fate and vanished when the hospital bills piled up. A father who worked 3 jobs before collapsing into exhaustion and debt. Pain taught her endurance, and endurance pushed her into leadership. By 37, she had her own company, a team of 300 employees, and a reputation for iron discipline. But success didn't erase the silent ache of going home to an empty apartment, of eating dinner alone, of hearing her prosthetic click late at night, and realizing no one would ever understand how heavy one metal limb could feel. That morning, her assistant informed her that the company's main elevator was out of order due to renovations, and she would need to take the service route downstairs for her board meeting. She despised the service hallway, dim, deserted, lined with buzzing pipes, but she forced herself. Forward, walking carefully, each click of her prosthetic echoing off the metal walls like a spotlight on every insecurity she kept buried. Halfway down the corridor, her prosthetic stuck again, the joint freezing. Selena tightened her jaw, putting her weight on the wall, frustrated she couldn't solve something so simple. For someone who handled multi-million-dollar deals, she hated needing help for something so small, so human. That was the moment she heard footsteps approaching from behind. A tall man wearing a maintenance uniform turned the corner, carrying a small lunchbox and a toolbox slung over his shoulder. His badge read Ronan Hale, Facilities Supervisor. His dark hair fell messily across his forehead, and his sleeves were rolled halfway up his arms, showing exhaustion mixed with quiet resilience. But it was his eyes, steady, observant, kind, that struck her most. He slowed the moment he saw her gripping the wall. "Ma'am, are you all right?" She stiffened. "I'm fine. My prosthetic just needs adjusting." He didn't stare at her leg. That alone startled her. People always stared, out of pity, curiosity, or discomfort. Ronan simply nodded, as though she had told him nothing unusual. "I can help if you'd like. My son's leg brace jams sometimes. I keep tools with me." She hesitated, pride tightening her shoulders. But her balance betrayed her again, and she realized she didn't have the strength for stubbornness today. "All right," she whispered. He knelt, not to gawk, not to study her like an object, but to carefully examine the mechanical lock. His touch was steady, respectful. Within seconds, he loosened a small connection bolt and reset the alignment. "You'll still need a proper tune-up," he said gently, "but it should move for now." When she tested her weight, the joint clicked smoothly again. Relief washed through her so strongly she nearly forgot to breathe. "Thank you," she said quietly. He smiled, warm, but not the kind that made her feel pitied. Anytime. She had meetings to run and a company to manage, yet something about that brief moment stayed with her the entire day. The gentleness in his tone, the fact that he spoke of his son without sadness, the way he didn't recoil from her vulnerability. She had met board members with polished suits and flawless etiquette, but none had ever made her feel as seen as a maintenance supervisor in a dim hallway had. Over the next week, she kept noticing Ronan around the building, once fixing a faulty window hinge, another time replacing lights, another time wiping a spill someone else ignored. He always worked quietly, efficiently, trying to finish tasks before anyone could thank him, and somehow he always had a soft smile ready for anyone who looked troubled. One afternoon, after a brutal series of negotiations left her emotionally drained, she stepped out onto the rooftop terrace to clear her mind. The cold breeze stung her cheeks, making her feel less trapped in her own thoughts. Then she heard a small, joyful laugh and turned to see a little girl sitting cross-legged beside a potted plant, drawing butterflies with chalk. The girl looked up at her. "Hi, I'm Mira. My dad says we're not supposed to draw on the floor, but he also says rules bend if it makes someone smile." Selina blinked. She wasn't used to children, nor their honesty. A moment later, Ronan emerged from the stairwell holding 2 juice boxes. "Lyra, you're not bothering anyone, are you?" "Nope," Lyra said cheerfully. "She looks lonely. I'm keeping her company." Selina didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ronan flushed with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, the sitter cancelled last minute." "It's fine," Selina said softly. "She's refreshing." Lyra grinned. "Do you want to see my butterflies?" And somehow, Selina found herself kneeling, awkwardly, carefully, beside Lyra, listening to the girl explain how each butterfly color represented a feeling. "The yellow one is hope," she said. "It shows up even when you think nothing. Bright will happen." As she spoke, Selina felt something warm and unfamiliar unfurl inside her chest, an emotion she hadn't allowed herself in years, gentle longing. After that day, Selina began finding small reasons to pass by the maintenance wing. Sometimes she brought leftover pastries from executive meetings, claiming they were extra so Ronan wouldn't feel she was singling him out. Other times she merely greeted him, exchanging brief but comforting moments of human connection she didn't know she had missed. Ronan, she learned, was a single father. His wife had died 3 years ago, leaving him with a 2-year-old daughter and a grief heavy enough to crush mountains. He worked long hours, balancing overtime and parenting with quiet grit. Selina admired his strength, a strength without walls, without pretenses, without isolation. The more she learned, the more she felt her own heart soften. Yet she also felt fear nibbling at her happiness. She had worked so long to feel independent that the idea of depending on anyone, even emotionally, terrified her. She worried about slowing people down, about being treated as fragile, about Ronan seeing her as someone incomplete. One afternoon her fear became a storm. Her prosthetic malfunctioned again, worse than before, locking stiff while she was carrying documents down the service stairs. The world tilted, her balance slipped, and she braced for the fall, when strong arms caught her from behind. Ronan. He pulled her to safety, breath unsteady, eyes wide with concern. "Selina, are you hurt?" She shook her head, but tears burst unbidden, not from pain but from humiliation. "I hate this," she whispered. "I hate depending on anything, on anyone." Ronan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he gently guided her to sit on the steps. When she finally met his eyes, she saw no pity, only fierce sincerity. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met," he said. "But strong doesn't mean alone. You help hundreds of people every day. Let someone help you too." She covered her face, overwhelmed. "You don't understand. People see me as weak the moment they notice my leg. I can't stand the thought of you seeing me that way." Ronan shook his head. "Selina, you walk like someone who survived fire and built a kingdom from the ashes. You're not weak, you're extraordinary." His words cracked something inside her she had sealed shut years ago.